Yahoo Fantasy Football, the Tucson Tackle Dummies League. This is your Week 12 recap. In close action this week, Viva Football defeats Greek Thunderball 107.71 to 107.66. Playoff football started early for both Viva and Greek this week. The end result was the unofficial closest matchup in league history, as Viva beats Greek by 0.05 points. In the loser gets eliminated matchup, both teams had their ups and downs. Viva had a game-high 24.16 from wide receiver Johnny Knox, and Greek answered back with 23.95 from running back Roy Halou. Greek added 14 points from the Pittsburgh defense, while Viva booted 14 points herself with kicker Rob Baronis. Both teams had terrible holes this week, though, with a combined 9 players in all scoring 1 point or fewer. For Viva, 6 of the 7 defensive starters scored at 3 points or fewer. Greek had 2 players score no points at all, including inactive wide receiver Jeremy Maclin. While neither team stood much of a chance of making the playoffs coming into this matchup, the slim hope remains alive for Viva, who improves to 4-8 with the win, which was incidentally her first ever divisional win. Greek falls to last in the Toro division with the loss at 3-9 and is officially eliminated from playoff contention. In other action, close battle once again. Navajos knocks off Mojo Jojo 162.86 to 158.74. Mojo fails to clinch the Aztec Division title this week, falling at the hands of the surging Navajos. Navajos had her first start of the season with Caleb Haney at quarterback from the Bears, and the replacement for the injured Jay Cutler did not disappoint in the fantasy ranks, nearly doubling his projections for 21.06 this week. Haney was on one of 11 starters for Navajos who exceeded projections this week, joining all 6 of Navajos' individual defensive players in beating projections, those of which were led by defensive back Patrick Peterson and his 12.9 points. And late season surprise wide receiver Laurent Robinson scored a team high 22.65 for Navajos. Mojo faced an insurmountable lead going into the Monday night game, but nearly pulled off the comeback as New York Giants wide receiver Victor Cruz went for a game-high 29.95 this week, but it still wouldn't be enough. Mojo did get 21.28 from quarterback Aaron Rodgers, but as a team, the 8 players beating projections just wasn't enough. Wide receiver Julio Jones was perhaps the biggest letdown for Mojo, as he was announced active for his game and then scored no points for Mojo, while wide receiver Doug Baldwin sat on the Mojo bench for what would have been enough to turn the tide, scoring 7.25 this week. Mojo will have to wait yet another week to possibly clinch the Aztec Division, now at 8-4 on the season, while Navajos now has 4 straight victories, the league's longest winning streak at this point, and moves into a 6-6 tie for the final wildcard spot with 2 weeks remaining, and improves her record against her own division to a division best 3-1. Also in close action, a very crucial matchup, Mustache Discount knocks off AZ Chargers 129.09 to 124.97. Much like Mojo in the Aztec division, AZ Chargers fails to clinch the Toro division this week after losing to Mustache in another close race. AZ Chargers actually had a solid day on offense with 5 in double digits, including a game-high 18.65 from wide receiver Lance Moore. Mustache countered with 4 on offense beating projections, but only one of those players beat projections by more than a point, as running back Chris Johnson went for a team-high 17.55. Defense would be where this battle was won, as Mustache outscored AZ Chargers by 19.5 on that side of the ball, thanks to 2 players above projections to AZ Chargers' none. Defensive back Devon Branch went for 10 points, and defensive lineman Jabil Sherd added a surprising 8 points, outscoring the combined effort of both of AZ Chargers' defensive linemen this week. No AZ Chargers defensive starter scored higher than defensive back Eric Weddle's 6.5 this week, and linebacker Ray Lewis was inactive this week and in the starting lineup for 0 points. The win for Mustache moves the team within a game of first place behind AZ Chargers in the Toro division, sitting at 7-5 overall, and keeps them a game ahead of the Mess for that final wildcard spot, while AZ Chargers' loss drops the team to 8-4 on the season after losing within the division for the first time all year. In other action, What the Shell defeats Angry Arthritis 172.32 to 147.29. One of the most competitive matchups of the week saw the loser get eliminated from playoff contention as the winner, Shell, improves to 4-0 within the Cavs division. Shell posted the league's highest score this week, but could have easily broke 200 points with the right lineup. The biggest story here could have been who Shell chose to sit this week, but the win makes all those decisions meaningless. On the Shell bench sat running back Beanie Wells with 27.8, wide receiver Reggie Wayne with 19.45, and wide receiver Stevie Johnson with 15.5. Meanwhile, in the Shell starting lineup, 7 players beat projections, led by 38.52 from quarterback Drew Brees, who outdueled Arthritis' quarterback and Monday Night Football opponent Eli Manning, 38.52 to 25.29. Shell returned to dominance at running back this week as well, with 3 running backs combined for 51.25 this week. And on defense, Shell added 22 points at linebacker and 10 at defensive lineman, far outpacing Arthritis and his combined 14 points from those 4 starters. Arthritis did still manage a great week overall, though, with 7 players beating projections all on offense. Wide receiver Roddy White had 20.5, and running backs DeMarco Murray and D'Angelo Williams combined for 32.7 this week. The win moves Shell into sole possession of first in the Cavs division by a game, sitting at 8-4 overall, and the loss drops Arthritis out of playoff contention and 3-9 on the season. Meanwhile, White Powerade defeats the Amazons 171.2 to 104.53. With multiple teams losing this week, Powerade took full advantage of the opportunity and jumps into the final wildcard spot for the moment, following a decisive victory over Amazons this week for the team's first ever divisional win. Powerade posted the league's second highest score this week thanks to 9 players in double digits, including 8 of 9 offensive starters. Fill-in quarterback Vince Young had a team-high 24.3, while the 3 Powerade wide receivers combined for 43.3, as all 3 scored 14 and change this week. The 3 running backs for Powerade added a combined 40.7 points, and tight end Friend Davis added 12.8. Amazons was again heavily depleted by injury this week and had just 3 players in double digits, led by kicker Sebastian Janikowski, who booted 23 this week. Just wasn't enough, though, to make up for a combined 1.85 from starting running backs Jason Snelling and Carnell Williams, and 2.3 points from starting wide receivers Jerome Simpson and Sidney Rice. Powerade now holds the tiebreaker on points against the 3 other 6-6 teams in the league and takes possession of the number 8 seed, and still has a slim chance at winning the Aztec division outright. Amazons was eliminated from winning her division with the loss, but still harbors slim playoff hopes at 4-8 overall, 2 games back with 2 games left to play. Meanwhile, Lombardi's Ghost knocks off Championship Cheese 139.61 to 94.74. Lombardi clinches a playoff berth and assumes the league's number 1 seed by defeating a floundering Cheese team that has lost 3 straight games at the worst possible time. Lombardi had only 2 players in double digits this week, but those 2 were quarterback Tom Brady and wide receiver Wes Welker, who combined for 55.04 points this week. Cheese countered with just 2 in double digits himself, with the team high being a mediocre 12.4 from tight end Antonio Gates. Cheese left 28.5 wide receiver points on the bench with Eric Decker and Greg Little, instead opting for the 0.93 he got from wide receiver Earl Bennett and the under projections wide receiver Deshaun Jackson, who got benched in his contest late in the game. Cheese moves to 9-3 with the victory on the season and is a game up on everybody in the race to be the league's top seed with 2 weeks left remaining. And in the race to win the Wildcat division, Lombardi maintains a 1-game lead. Cheese falls out of the top 8 with the loss to 9th overall in a tiebreaker with 3 other teams at 6-6. Wildcats becomes one of those 6-6 teams by knocking off Raging Boners 107.82 to 77.57. Wildcats stays in the hunt for the wild card by knocking off former co-division leader Boners in a lopsided affair. Boners had his lowest score of the season this week, leaving 15.9 from running back on his bench in favor of 2 running backs, combining for 0 points this week. That running back, Mark Ingram, scored 15.9 this week, but was on the Boners bench, and chose the San Francisco defense for 2 points over the Baltimore defense, which went to the bench for 21 points for Boners this week. In the lineup, 10 players scored fewer than 4 points apiece for Boners, and just 1 player beat projections this week, with defensive back D'Angelo Hall scoring 11. Wildcats, meanwhile, did opt to go with inactive Adrian Peterson for no points this week, but the rest of the team managed at least some scoring, including the game-high 20.68 from wide receiver Percy Harvin. Wildcats also got a combined 19 at linebacker from Chad Greenway and London Fletcher. Wildcats is now 6-6 on the season and maintains a slim shot at winning the Cavs division with the victory, while joining the 4-way fray for the final wildcard spot. Boners falls to a game back in the Cavs division at 7-5 overall, but maintains a game lead on all of these 6-6 teams. And in the final contest of the week, Inglorious Bearjew defeats Big Ben's Revenge 126.82 to 51.44. Bearjew continues to remain a game back in the Wildcat division after knocking off the dead carcass Big Ben this week. Bearjew is one of 4 teams left that has not scored under 100 points all season long, along with Arthritis, Shell, and Powerade. And this week can thank tight end Jimmy Graham, who went for 21.69 this week, and quarterback Matt Ryan, who went for a team-high 24.13 this week. Bearjew did have some struggles this week, though, as 5 players scored fewer than 4 points, and just 5 players beat projections overall. But if you're going to have a mild week, this was the week to do it, as Big Ben posted the league's lowest score of the season. Only 1 starter for Big Ben hit double digits, and that was 11.79 points from quarterback Curtis Painter. Running back Balil Powell and tight end Dallas Clark were inactive and started, scoring 0 points. Both starting defensive backs for Big Ben are on injured reserve but started, scoring 0. And the Philadelphia defense was in the starting lineup and got torched this week, posting a -4 score this week. Overall, the Big Ben defense scored a grand total of 9.5 points, as the only starters to tally any positive points were the New York Jets' individual defensive players, Zion Powell with 4 points and David Harris with 9.5. Big Ben is dead last in the league now at 3-9 and is eliminated from all playoff contention and scenarios, while Bearjew is the top wild card now, the number 5 seed overall, at 8-4 on the year. Just to give you a look into the future, if the playoffs did start right now, the number 1 seed would be Lombardi, and that team would face off with number 8 seed Powerade. Number 2 would be What the Shell, and that team would take on division foe Raging Boners in the opening round. Number 3 would be AZ Chargers. That team would take on division foe Mustache Discount in the opening round. And number 4 right now is Mojo Jojo. That team would face off with Inglorious Bearjew in the opening round of the playoffs if things were to start today. The teams on the outside looking in: number 9 Championship Cheese, number 10 Wildcats, and number 11 Navajos. All of those teams at 6-6 with 2 weeks left to play. And then the Amazons is number 12, and number 13 is Viva Football. Both those teams still have an outside chance at making the playoffs at 4-8 overall. Looking ahead to next week's action, a big matchup between 2 6-6 teams as Navajos faces off with White Powerade. 8-4 Shell takes on 7-5 Boners. That one could clinch the division for Shell with a victory. 8-4 Mojo tries to clinch his division, taking on 4-8 Amazons, trying to stay alive in the wild card race. 8-4 AZ Chargers tries to potentially clinch that division with a win over Greek Thunderball, who has been eliminated at 3-9 on the season. 7-5 Mustache tries to keep their division title hopes alive, taking on 4-8 Viva, trying to stay alive in the playoff chase. 8-4 Bearjew tries to track down the Wildcat division leader, taking on 6-6 Cheese, who tries to get out of the fray at 6-6 for that final wildcard spot. 6-6 Wildcats tries to stay in the fray by taking on 3-9 Arthritis, who is still looking for their first interdivision or within the division victory this season. And 9-3 Lombardi will take on the league's worst team, 3-9 Big Ben. So we will see you back next week for your Week 13 recap. Be sure to stay tuned to the Facebook page where you'll get plenty of stat information and playoff scenarios throughout the week as things develop. Until next week, we'll see you then.